The Holy Gospel of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, according to St. Mark.
Glory to you, Lord Christ.
Now, after John was arrested, Jesus came to Galilee, proclaiming the good news of God and saying, "The time is fulfilled, and the kingdom of God has come near. Repent and believe in the good news." As Jesus passed along the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon and his brother Andrew casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. And Jesus said to them, "Follow me, and I will make you fish for people." And immediately they left their nets and followed him. As he went a little farther, he saw James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John, who were in their boat mending nets. Immediately he called them, and they left their father Zebedee in the boat with the hired men and followed him. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
Please be seated. Today we are having our Meet the Candidates Forum. It was supposed to have all been last Sunday, but as you know, something happened last week, so we were not able to do this. This is a chance to get to know, meet our Vestry candidates to be elected at next week's annual parish meeting. Hope you have that on your calendar and hope to join us next Sunday as after the Pentecost service next week. I'm going to introduce Lori Archdeacon.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lori Archdeacon. I am the junior warden at Calvary Episcopal Church. And one of my jobs as a junior warden is to head up the nominating committee. And we had a wonderful nominating committee who brought you some excellent candidates. Today you will only be able to hear from 4 of them, I'm afraid, because the storm affected who could attend today and who could not. We have 2 people that are out of town, one who can't get back until today because of the snow. He had written to me, "I hear you've had some snow there." So either Ted Andrews is the person who is really good at the understatement, or he really doesn't know what he's coming back to. Won't he be surprised? Also, the Bomber family is on vacation this week. They would have been here last week, so you will not be able to see Mike Bomber today. Gosh, I've only known him for like 50 years. Then we also have Kelly Blackie, who we specifically set up the meetings for last week because she was having knee surgery this week. Well, guess what? When you've had a full knee replacement, you can't just walk up here and start doing the candidates forum. So that's why you will not have these 3 people. Please keep them, in your thoughts when you're doing your election ballots. You all had an opportunity to download this from your Wednesday news. If you did not, if you're people who regularly get your ballots get all of your notices through email, then through regular mail, then this was included with your ballots. There are a few limited copies in the back if you would like to pick one up at the end of the service. All right, so can I have our candidates come on up a while? Okay, so we're going to start by hearing from Howard Craig. He's going to tell us a little bit about himself. So go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning. It's nice to see all of you here this morning. I came back to Calvary after having been gone for a little while, moving around looking for a church. I had been invited here by a friend of mine, and when I came back, it was one of the best decisions I ever made. I've been in Buffalo now for about 50 years. I worked in the Amherst schools as a school counselor. I'm also a therapist in private practice. And for a long time, I was a member of the Christ United Methodist Church over at Harlem and Saratoga, because I was raised a Methodist in Batavia, even though I was born in Canada. But I came back to Calvary again a number of years ago, have met some wonderful people, and I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to serve in whatever capacity I might be able to. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll hear from Sandra Handy.
Good morning. I'll tell you a little bit about my background, and then I'll try to give you an idea of why I said yes to the nomination for Vestry. For the first half of our marriage, we attended Methodist churches. And then mid-90s, we had a friend visiting from Washington, D.C., and he wanted to attend an Episcopalian service. He brought us here, and I think the first thing that I noticed before I even came in the door was the sign that said, "Open hearts, open minds, open thoughts." I don't have it correct. But the openness of this church and the inclusiveness of this church has impressed me so much. So therefore, in 1997, we transferred from Baker Memorial Church in East Aurora to Calvary. And it's been such a pleasure to be a member of Calvary Church. I'll give you a little bit of my background. In that first half of our marriage, I pursued a couple of degrees. I earned a bachelor's degree in psychology, and after that, worked several years as a New York State credentialed alcoholism counselor, and then made the decision to complete a master's degree in higher ed administration at the University of Buffalo. I was then hired, and at the age of 50, started my career at the University of Buffalo, working with students, primarily career counseling. I'm now retired, 7 years out, and I have found some meaningful involvements. Retirement is a great thing. I'm ready, though, to add to what I have committed to, and because of my professional background, working at the university, working on committees, advising, influencing students, teaching, I believe I have some qualities, some skills that would help me contribute to the vestry. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori Kaiser.
Good morning. My name is Laurie Kaiser. My husband Rob and I started coming to Calvary in 2010, soon after we moved to Buffalo, with our sons Sawyer and Jacob, who were very young then and now are in college. I'm originally from Dallas, Texas. I was a newspaper journalist for many years, and then I went into public relations. I worked at Buffalo State doing publicity there for about 12 years. I joined UB in the summer, and I handle communications for the School of Dental Medicine and the Pharmacy School. I was raised in a completely different faith. It was Christian Science, not to be confused with Scientology. This is Christian Science, which is founded by Mary Baker Eddy. And after I moved away from the religion in my 20s, I was looking for another faith community and visited many churches. When I met my husband Rob, who is a cradle Episcopalian, it just made a lot of sense. I went through all the classes. I did confirmation with many 12-year-olds when I was in my 30s. And I learned so much. I feel like I still have more to learn, and this is a good place to do so. If I were to be a vestry member, I would like to help others, long-term members, newcomers, and first-time visitors see that all that Calvary can be to them. I find it to be an oasis for me, that's how I view the church. I found particular solace in the Mother's Prayer Group, and I've found the more that I've gotten involved with Calvary, the more of a true home it seems. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we're going to hear from Dennis McCoy.
Last, huh? So, thanks, Lori. I too was born into a different faith tradition. I'm from New York City originally. I was born and raised a Roman Catholic. 16 years of Roman Catholic education from Queens, New York to Brooklyn, New York to South Bend, Indiana. And then 3 years of law school here in Buffalo. Then moved to Rochester, practiced law there, and met my wife, who changed my life in a lot of different ways. One was, she had several conditions if we were to get married, and one was that her husband was going to attend church with her. And so I met her Episcopal faith community, St. Paul's, at a parish picnic. There was beer and softball, and I thought this was just a fine place for me to be. So we became very, very involved. Beth ultimately was offered a position at St. Paul's as parish life coordinator. I spent time teaching church school, high school, which was working with the youth group, lector, Eucharistic minister, and then 10 years on the vestry, the last 4 of which were as a junior and senior warden. Then we moved here to Buffalo. And we had a hard time finding a church. We started a course, continued in the Episcopal faith, tried the Cathedral St. Paul's downtown, spent some time in Trinity where our daughter Abby was confirmed and she was an acolyte there. And then eventually 7 years ago settled down here. Now, unfortunately, because Beth had some significant health conditions that took up pretty much all of our time, we weren't able to get involved in the parish life and in terms of actually ministering. So we were recipients of that ministry. The love that came through the people who communicated with us, brought us meals, brought us communion, just called, sent us emails, had a profound impact upon us. And I'm here because I was asked by the nominating committee, much to my surprise, because I'm a 4 o'clock guy. So many of you haven't seen my face before. Well, probably the picture that if you saw the bios. And I'm here because I was asked, but I'm also here because I want to get involved. And since I've been on a vestry before, I have some idea. Now, on behalf of all of the people here, there was one other thing that they wanted me to say, and that was, go Bills.
Leave the best for last. I want to just share the bios of our other candidates, so as I say, they aren't left out of your thoughts today. So I'll start with Kelly, who is running as our warden. Kelly wrote, she has one son, R.J. Derritt Jr., who's 33. She also has 2 parents that go to our church here. So Kelly is the daughter of both Linda and Paul McKenna, who you might also be familiar with, since they do everything also. Kelly writes that she's the Senior Program Director, Project Coordinator for the South Buffalo Community Association at the Tosh Collins Senior Center. As in that capacity, I back up the Executive Director when he is out of the office, fill in for other center staff, kitchen, front desk, when coverage is needed, and supervise activities in the center. As Project Coordinator, I supervise a team of 3 case managers and report to the Erie County Department of Senior Services. We provide assistance to clients who may be in need of home-delivered meals, home care services, emergency response units, and help them to complete applications for HEAP, SNAP, and Medicaid. I also create and maintain reports for both the SPD and PC positions on a weekly, monthly basis, and have successfully encouraged the team to meet and exceed projected goals set forth by ECDSS for the last 2 years. In terms of her participation at Calvary, Well, Kelly's our nursery coordinator. She is the one that our children go to who are probably under the age of 3 or 4, and she very nicely takes care of their needs while you're able to worship in service without having to worry about whether or not the baby's going to make too much noise, et cetera. So she's critical in that. I'm going to move on. There's a number of other things I could say. I encourage you to read this, but I want to make sure that I also give ample time to the other 2 candidates who are running as vestry people. So I'm going to read now from Mike Bombers. And again, Mike, if you're listening, I apologize that I had a momentary gap with your first name, okay? So anyway, Michael wrote that his family, Janice is Janice Bomber, his wife, his children, adult children, Ethan, Rachel, and Brooke. His occupation is, he is an accountant at Nanco Associates, and he was previously with the Buffalo News for 12 years and Quebecor for 20 years. Mike's participation here at Calvary is primarily Calvary Choir, where he has been a member since he was a little kid. I mean, Mike has been here forever, and we miss having his voice here with us today. In terms of his other work that he has done, he's also a member of the Calvary Finance Committee, and he's been doing that for the last 8 years. And in volunteer work, he's the treasurer for Boy Scout Troop 457 and has been doing that for over 10 years with that as well. So that's Mike. Now let me tell you about Ted Andrews. So Ted Andrews, the one who thinks we have some snow, is a pediatrician and pediatric psychologist. He's an attending physician at John R. Aushai Children's Hospital. He is also the Sunday school teacher for our older children, which is not an easy job to do. So we are grateful that Ted stepped up and is working with our preteens and early teens down in the same room where we hold the children's chapel. He, in terms of community volunteer work, he has been a volunteer with Compeer since 2003 until now. He also has served on the Community Health Foundation Early Childhood Connections. He was on the board of directors for Western New York Cystic Fibrosis Foundation and the Cystic Fibrosis Walk for Life Planning Committee from Wilson, New York. And Ted is married to his wife, Vanessa, and they have 2 children who you might recognize when I say their names, Grace and Ethan. So that is what I'm going to talk to you about with Ted Andrews. So again, please, when you're marking your ballots, remember all of your candidates. The ballot box is in the reception room, and they have to be turned in by 11:15 next Sunday. So make sure that if you haven't already voted that you do so. Now, we have a little bit of time here. Not a lot. Maybe time for one question from the congregation. Does anybody have one to ask? Dale. Now, okay, the question was, Dale is asking on behalf of the congregation what our candidate's view is, what their philosophy is regarding stewardship and how important it is and how it is also a reflection of our life here at Calvary. Dennis, we were making you last all the other times, but I think anybody who's been a warden and a junior warden probably can weigh in on stewardship.
Sure. I also served on the stewardship committee of the Diocese of Rochester when I was there, so I'm kind of a big stewardship guy. But And so, but we don't have much time, so I'm not going to go into everything about that. But I will. I'll start with a very quick story, and it's quick. So this was the first rector's stewardship sermon, and you know, he talked about money. And afterwards, one of the older matriarchs of the parish came up to him, and she said, "Father, about your sermon." And he said, "Yes." He said, "Well, you talked about money." And he said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, here at St. Swithin's, we don't discuss money." And he said, "Well, you know, Jesus talked about it all the time." And she looked at him and she said, "Two wrongs don't make a right."
That's great.
So
That's great.
I realize that the prevailing view among Episcopalians, and quite frankly, Roman Catholics, is not to talk about money. But stewardship is much more than that. Stewardship, and I think it's important as a vestry to understand that the vestry has a tremendous role in terms of being stewards of the congregation, the faith community, the building, the people, everything. It's a tremendous responsibility. And it's a balancing act as well. And it's a balancing act in all of our lives. Stewardship has to do with coming here and celebrating Eucharist with the community. So all of you are performing acts of stewardship today by being here. And I think we need to look at that and look at ourselves. The gospel. Where your treasure is, there your hearts are also. But also to understand that we profess faith in a loving, giving, forgiving God. So we can set our sights on doing things in terms of stewardship, but we can't feel bad or beat ourselves up for falling short. So it's a constant, everyday thing to think about. It comes out of our thanksgiving for all the gifts that we have. And that's it, and I'm sorry, it sounds like a little bit like a sermon, and at St. Swithin's, we don't talk about money. Okay.
Thank you, Dennis. That was great. Well, I would say one thought I would have on stewardship, coming from a background as a journalist and now working for SUNY as a PR person, is transparency. I think being as transparent with the congregations to where the money goes, maybe highlight some of the programs that it supports, storytelling, making it real to people and not just about the dollars, but about the works that go behind the dollars and what it supports. And so many things I think sometimes get overlooked that Calvary does, and this would be a good way to be able to tell those stories in a stewardship form. Thank you.
And I'm following two eloquent people. And I agree with both of you, of course. I think openness as far as where the monies go is so important, and it needs to be presented on a fairly regular basis, so it's in our minds. I'm donating this amount. I have a sense of where it's going, and I value that. Thanks.
Thank you. I think of stewardship in terms of personal connection with people. That's how I've lived my life, both personally and professionally. When you think of the community and the families, not only in this church, but community-wide, they're dealing with a lot these days. They're dealing with raising their children. They're dealing with paying their bills. They're dealing with, in many cases, trying to care for elderly parents. And so it seems to me that in terms of stewardship, we need to be specific. We need to get people where they live and what they're dealing with, because two things I think have to happen. In order to become a member of a church and to feel comfortable there, they have to feel that it meets their needs, it speaks to them somehow, and helps them deal with their everyday lives. And it has to be a place that they feel safe, because as you know, a lot of the world out there is not safe in so many ways, personally and psychologically. And so if you can do that, if you can talk with the people who are already here and find out what their needs are and then ask the question, is there anybody out there that we need to contact and talk to them some more? You're networking. And that's what you need to do, I think, is to take the time, excuse me, to go out into the community, talk with people, invite them in, and help them feel as though it's worth their time coming here. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. I wish we had time for more questions, but I think we have probably exceeded the time that Father Robert would normally take doing a sermon by quite a bit. So I thank you very much for attending today. I thank our candidates for all the wonderful time and effort they have put in. This is their third service because they came to our 4 o'clock service because our 4 o'clock parishioners are important to Calvary, and they came to the 8 o'clock service this morning because those parishioners are also important to Calvary. So we wanted to make sure that everybody had that opportunity. And best of all, our viewers at home, by doing this here at the 10 o'clock service, our viewers at home are also being given a chance to hear from our candidates. So thank you so much for coming and doing this today. All right?